how to become your audience. Okay, now this is a fun, simple strategy where we get to actually put ourselves in our client's shoes. So we're going to see the view of their perspective. And when you're thinking about the view of your client's perspective, you have to actually think as that client, right? So when you're thinking as your client, what type of thoughts come into your head? Okay? Write them down in your notes. Right now, before I show you anything, write down in your notes what type of things come to your head when you start thinking like your client. Ask yourself some questions like your client, okay? So it's with any business, like I said, and I'm going to keep saying over and over and over, no matter what, I will show you examples for every business because value attraction marketing is a marketing style. It's not a specific business marketing scheme, right? So you have to think as your client. So think from their perspective. I'm going to give you a few seconds, jot down a few points on, or a few questions on what your clients think whenever they're coming to you to buy a product, okay? Now I'm going to tell you a few things that we have to keep in mind, all right? Things you have to ask yourself whenever you are viewing their perspective, okay? What do you have to ask? First thing is, what type of questions is my audience asking, right? So we went over that, but what type of questions are they actually asking before they buy my product? So if I'm selling markers, if I have expo markers, what type of questions, and the thing is the audience will come up with the most off of the wall questions. So how do you counteract that? You think off of the wall and be ready to answer those questions. Be prepared. Preparation is number one with building your audience because you have to be prepared for anything because you're going to be asked a whole bunch of things in business, okay? And you just have to be prepared. So you ask yourself beforehand, what type of questions is my audience going to ask? It's just like if you were walking out on stage, right? And you were performing. And for those of you who have performed, you know what I'm talking about. For those of you who don't, think about it like this, okay? You're walking out on stage and you're about to perform. But before you start performing, you're going to ask your audience, do you guys have any questions for me before we get started? Okay? There's probably 3,000 to 5,000 people sitting out in this crowd, roughly, right? 3,000 to 5,000 sitting out in the crowd. Maybe you got 100,000 sitting in the crowd. That is 100,000 potential different questions that you cannot possibly fathom to answer, right? But you have to think about the vast majority. So what is the audience asking about my product? Okay, so if I'm selling expo markers, what questions could you possibly ask about an expo marker? You know, and then a client comes to you and this is your mindset, and then a client asks you, well, is the marker going to dry out tomorrow? Okay, well, now I have to explain to him how our marker works and why it doesn't dry out tomorrow, right? So start being prepared by answering your audience's questions before they ask the questions. Answer the questions before they ask. And that's how we're going to start building content, is we're going to build content on the questions that they're going to ask, and we're going to answer them for them. And I'll tell you why in a couple slides. So next is, what issue do they have that can be addressed? So what issue does your audience have? You know, does their mom hate them? Does their dad hate them? Are they, struggling with the 9-to-5 job? Are you trying to sell them some type of employment or get rich quick scheme? You know what and not bashing on my get rich quick earners, but not everybody can do it, right? So that's why we go and watch Colin's marketing training. No, I'm playing. But if you're selling, soda, okay, if you're selling websites like we talked about before, what type of issues can be addressed to those type of clients? Okay, so start addressing those issues in your content before they even come to you with those issues. So give yourself a few seconds and think about what type of issues that you can address when you're talking to clients. Okay, so maybe they have an issue with skincare. Maybe they have acne problems. So what is the issue that can be addressed? Firstly, it's their acne, right? You can address this problem over and over with multiple different clients. So you can come to them and tell them, instead of saying, well, I have, the best thing for acne on the market. Okay, forget that. Why not talk about their acne? That's the issue that needs to be addressed. Not the fact that you have the best product on the market. The question here isn't who has the best product on the market. The question is, what can this product do for me? Okay? So think about that. What kind of questions or what issues do they have that can be addressed? And then we think about, where do they go for research and guidance? Where do your clients go? Do they go to YouTube? Do they go to Google? If you're selling a product and you have so many different other brands, right? Selling the same product you're selling, where do these people go to research those brands? Where do they go to research, any type of information that they could possibly think of? So this kind of relates to the first question. What type of questions is my audience asking? So with the questions that they're asking, where do they go to ask these questions? That's what you have to ask yourself, okay? A lot of asking going on here, lots of questions. So where do they go for research and guidance? Do they go to Facebook? Do they go to YouTube to find some guru on your product that's going to tell them more than you did, right? So think about that in your head. Where do they go for research? Write it down in your notes. Give yourself a few spaces. Write some points on where they go for research and guidance. And then we're going to talk about, wait for it, who do they currently follow for this information? Now, this is the biggest question that I ask anybody who comes to me for advice. Who do they currently follow? Who does your audience flock to right now? Okay? If you're selling websites, or if you're selling expo markers, or if you're selling, at-home business, okay? Who do these people flock to for information, right? So you have to think about what type of other entrepreneurs just like yourself are giving more information on these platforms where they go for research and guidance. Who is giving them the research and the guidance that they're looking for? So you can then follow that platform. You can follow the people. Not only can you learn from these gurus, okay, but you can also see exactly what your clients want. Because where there's a lot of traffic, there's a lot of interest, right? That indicates that there's high interest in that area, and you need to be speaking on that topic. So always understand who they flock to when they're looking for information on your product, okay? So that's a little bit of a view from the perspective. And now I'm going to show you a short clip on how to find your audience, okay? And I'm going to show you a quick tip just in Facebook to kind of give you an example of what I'm talking about here. But you can also use this with multiple different, platforms in social media. So it doesn't just have to be Facebook, but this is the whole idea of where we're going with this. Who do they currently follow for information? Where do they go for research and guidance? And the thing that we have to understand, and I say it a couple times in this short clip, but it's where, do the people congregate, right? And the thing that you have to understand is that anyone in business or any client seeking business congregates around a single problem or a single interest. If they're having a problem with your product, they're going to congregate around there, right? They're going to form a group, and they're going to gather up, and they're all going to talk about your product. So if you can come in and cut some of that tension and show them some value, you can take those clients and run with them. So here's a short clip on how to find your audience.